Over the past few days, the U.S. military has shot down several unidentified objects, including in the airspace over Alaska, Canada's Yukon territory, and Lake Huron. This after a Chinese spy balloon was shot down more than a week ago off the south coast of South Carolina. Ed O'Keefe is live for us at the White House and joins us with more on this story. Good morning, Ed.
Janelle, good morning. The White House and Pentagon insist these incidents pose no military threat, just a potential risk to civilian aircraft. But it has people wondering whether it's something like unlikely alien invasion or perhaps some other foreign surveillance program trying to test our detection and response systems. What started off as just a Chinese spy balloon shot down 9 days ago,
they just shot it,
is now a much broader intelligence investigation with even more flying objects taken out of the sky. The fourth manned object was shot down by an F-16 over Lake Huron Sunday. It was first detected Saturday over Montana. U.S. officials described it as an octagonal structure with strings hanging off, and its path and altitude raised concerns. While it wasn't considered a military threat, the Pentagon says it had potential surveillance capabilities, and a top general says they're considering all options.
I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figure that out. I haven't ruled out anything at this point.
There have now been 3 shoot-downs in 3 days, all since that Chinese spy balloon was deflated off the coast of South Carolina. On Friday, President Biden ordered the shoot-down of an object off the northern coast of Alaska, taken down by an F-22 fighter jet.
Success.
And on Saturday, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau ordered the shoot-down of an unidentified object spotted over Canada's Yukon territory.
Canadian and American fighter jets were scrambled, and an American F-22 successfully shot down the object. Recovery teams are on the ground looking to find and analyze the object.
What's gone on the last 2 weeks or so, 10 days, has been nothing short of craziness.
Now, Democrats and Republicans are pressing the Pentagon and intelligence agencies for more details.
The military needs to have a plan to not only determine what's out there, but determine the dangers that go with it.
I would prefer them to be trigger happy than to be permissive. But we're going to have to see whether or not this is just the administration trying to change headlines.
We should learn a lot more about these objects once the debris is recovered from the various spots where they've crashed, but especially in the case of that Alaska one, it could be a little while. Part of the reason the Pentagon explains that we've been seeing more of these is that radars have been adjusted since that spy balloon was shot down to track at higher and lower altitudes for slower moving objects, which may explain, Chanel, why so many of these are now being detected.
Ed, I want to ask about the logistics here. You know, why would a U.S. military team shoot down an object in Canadian airspace?
The U.S. and Canada work quite closely together on these issues. We have NORAD, which is the Northern Command that's set up in Montana, and the U.S. and Canada work in cohesion basically over the skies of North America. So while you heard the Prime Minister there say that Canadian and U.S. fighter jets spotted this together, it was a U.S. fighter jet that ultimately took it down with his permission. A good question, but a reminder of the good cooperation between the two neighbors.
Ed, we're also learning more about other potential spy balloons from China. Can you speak a bit about that?
Well, what we've learned is that there may have been as many as 10 now over the course of the last several weeks that have traversed this part of the world. And we saw late last week, as Congress was learning more and as the State Department and the intelligence agencies were seeking to, in essence, embarrass China on the global stage, they exposed a lot more of this, saying, look, we now know that objects like this have been floating around the world over several different countries, some of them with adverse relationships with China, trying to warn others that, you should be on the lookout for these because they're clearly trying to track something you're up to. And we'll see, again, if these smaller objects, remember the one that was shot down over Alaska on Friday was about the size of a car compared to the one shot down over South Carolina that was the size of 3 school buses. We'll see whether these other smaller ones were indeed Chinese or some other foreign actor, whether they're private structures or whether they were sent by a foreign government. Part of the problem here is going to be getting to those locations, finding the debris, pulling it up if it's still intact, and figuring out where exactly it might have come from.
So, Ed, with all this uncertainty around potential foreign surveillance, how is the White House responding?
Well, this is what's been interesting, and we'll wait and see how this plays out today and in the coming days. The president himself has said very little publicly about this. And that is keeping with a general belief that when he speaks about China, it needs to be very clear, concise, not off the cuff, because this is, of course, the world's most tenuous relationship. And if he says something or does something that can be seen to anger the Chinese, it could, of course, have broader national security, even economic effects. So let's wait and see if in the coming days he decides he has to say more in a more formal setting about all this to explain, or at least try to assuage the concerns of people who are worried about what exactly is being spotted up there and being shot out of the sky. Over the weekend, however, the Pentagon has been quite forthcoming about what they found and what they had to do to take it down. And national security officials have told us that the president, of course, has been briefed on all of these as they go. Out of an abundance of caution, when there's a threat to civilian aircraft especially, that seems to be the barometer at which the president says take it out of the sky.
Okay, thanks so much for your time, Ed. We appreciate this.
Take care.